Hey guys, welcome back to Fat History. If you're new here, Fat History is where we talk about cool fat people throughout history. Fat people have always done cool and interesting things. Our stories just never get told. So I'm here to tell those stories with dignity and respect. Today we're talking about one of the greatest rappers of all time, the Notorious B.I.G. One thing I would like to invite you to do while listening to this story is to acknowledge the fact that he was 24 when he passed away. So before you judge anything you hear in this story too quickly, just consider what your story might have looked like if the ending was at 24. We've all been young and made questionable choices at times, but that doesn't mean that we're not able to grow from those choices. Even Snoop Dogg just put out a really positive TV show for kids. So who's to say what his career and life might have looked like if given the opportunity? This video is sponsored today by Big Fig. We'll talk a little bit more about them in a bit, but for now, let's get started. Christopher Wallace was born May 21st, 1972 in Brooklyn, New York. His parents were both Jamaican. His mom, Valletta, taught preschool, and his dad was a welder and a Jamaican politician. But she wouldn't find out that he was actually married until she was already pregnant, and he would end up leaving the family whenever Biggie was only 2 years old. Biggie had a really close relationship with his mom because it was only the two of them whenever he was growing up, and she would save up money every year to take him to Jamaica. He loved Jamaica because they spoiled him rotten. On those visits, Biggie would spend time with his musician uncles, Dave and Lou. Whenever they were together, they were always playing reggae music, and he really loved it. I feel like his Jamaican roots really gave them an advantage in fighting fatphobic ideologies, because in Jamaica, being fat is associated with things like fertility, kindness, happiness, vitality, and social harmony. And weight loss and thinness are considered signs of social neglect. So because he had these ideals built in, his size became his strength and not his weakness. And he was a big dude. He was over 6 foot tall when he was only 13 years old. And so he would get the nickname Big. He would still be picked at, but he never let it define him in a negative way. His mother, Valletta, was a church-going lady, and she had a very different taste in music than him. She was more into country and western, and she really loved ballads. She was shocked whenever she found out that he was rapping about profane things, and whenever she confronted him about it, he was just like, you shouldn't be listening to my music. My music is not for anyone over 35. She actually would only ever listen to it one time all the way through, and it was after he passed away. Which, like, from her perspective, yeah, I kind of get that. There's some moments on that album that he would definitely not want his mom listening to. But while she didn't listen to his music, she was actually in the video for the song Juicy. Whenever he was growing up, she would work 2 jobs to put him in private Catholic school, but eventually he would transfer to George Westinghouse Career and Technical Education High School, where some of his classmates included DMX, Jay-Z, and Busta Rhymes. Biggie excelled in English. He was a natural poet and even won several awards in the English program. His mom said, Christopher did very well in school, it's just that he talked back. He was a smartass. He began skipping school, and eventually he would drop out at 17 in 1989. You may notice in the next part that I do mention a lot of dates, but that's because everything moves very quickly from this point, and there's a lot of times when specific dates are important. Growing up in and around the Bed-Stuy neighborhood of Brooklyn, he was in street life from a very young age, entering adolescence during the crack epidemic of the 1980s. He saw street hustling as a way to make quick money to survive, and began dealing drugs around the age of 12 along Brooklyn's Fulton Street. This would lead to him getting into trouble. Arrested on weapons charges in 1989, he received a 5-year probationary sentence, which he would violate the following year. After that, he was charged with dealing cocaine in North Carolina. His mother said that she was completely unaware of his activities. Biggie was known to write rhymes in his head instead of writing them down on paper. He began rapping as a way to entertain people in his neighborhood, but his main focus was always survival by any means necessary. This would lead to him getting into trouble, but after he got out of jail, he made a demo tape called Microphone Murderer under the name Biggie Smalls, named after fellow Caribbean actor Calvin Lockhart from the 1975 movie Let's Do It Again, and a nod to his childhood nickname. However, once his career started picking up, Lockhart wasn't super happy about him using his name, and he even sued him over it. He was left with no choice but to change his name. The Notorious B.I.G. was born at that moment, and he never looked back. So in the beginning of his career, he really didn't have any major plans for a music career specifically. He was just trying to get by. If that meant music, that's great. If that meant hustling, that's great too. He wasn't really set on one way or the other. But Mr. C, Big Daddy Kane's DJ, saw the vision and got the tape to Maddie C at the Source magazine. And they were so impressed that they featured Biggie on their Unsigned Hype column in March of 1992. And from there, Biggie would be invited to record with other unsigned rappers. This recording is what actually brought him to the attention of Sean Puffy Combs, also known as P. Diddy, an A&R executive and producer who worked for the leading urban label Uptown Records. He arranged a record deal for Biggie, but he left the label soon after because he had a falling out with his boss. And this is really the point where things were just very up in the air. He was already not really dead set on one way or the other, and then with him leaving the label, things just felt very unstable. But Puffy would go on to set up his own label, Bad Boy Records, and by mid-1992, Biggie would be signed to that label. Before he had a chance to put anything out at Bad Boy, his previous label, Uptown, released music that Biggie had recorded during his brief time at the label, including a remix of Mary J. Blige's Real Love in August of 1992. In 1993, when Biggie's rap career was on the verge of taking off, his mother would be diagnosed with breast cancer. Whenever she told him about her diagnosis, he was devastated. He couldn't bear to think about what could happen to his mother. But he largely kept this grieving to himself, with many of his close friends not even knowing what he was dealing with. Instead, he put his sadness and anger into his music, specifically the song Things Done Changed. In the song, he raps, "Shit, my mom's got cancer in her breast, don't ask me why I'm motherfucking stressed." When his friends heard early recordings of the song, they were completely shocked by that news. Like, they had been with him every day and he had never mentioned this to them at all. His friend and future Junior Mafia groupmate, Cheek, would say he had a lot on his mind at that point through the mix of trying to do music and hustling and people trying to get at you for this and that, you know, it gets to a point where he really was ready to die. In June of 1993, the label would release his first single as a solo artist, Party and Bullshit. It's hard to pick my favorite of his songs, but I gotta be honest, I think that that's my favorite. I think it is. I like to imagine what it would be like as a teenager or a young adult at the time when it came out. It must have been amazing. Like, Summer Jam is an understatement. It was around this time that Biggie would meet Tupac on the set of the movie Poetic Justice. It was said that he was playing Party and Bullshit on repeat. After this, they would become very close friends. Biggie was a frequent guest at Tupac's house. I feel like people talk about, like, the beef that was between them. They were, like, legitimately friends. On August 8th of 1993, Biggie's longtime girlfriend would give birth to his first child, Tiana. He was absolutely ecstatic about his daughter. He wanted to give her everything that he never had when he was growing up. Even though their relationship would end, in an interview she recounted Biggie's numerous infidelities. She said, "He always had the women. It wasn't about the money. This man had charisma out the wazoo. I don't care what anybody says about his looks, his weight. There was something about his personality that made him able to pull almost any woman that he wants. It didn't start after the money, it was the way it was in the beginning." At this point, he was still hustling, but whenever P. Diddy found out, he made him stop for good to focus on his career. In June of 1994, he appeared alongside LL Cool J and Busta Rhymes on a remix of Craig Mack's Flava in Ya Ear. The remix reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. On August 4th, 1994, Biggie married R&B singer Faith Evans 8 days after meeting her at a Bad Boy photo shoot. 5 days later, Biggie had his first pop chart success as a solo artist with double A side, Juicy and Unbelievable, which reached number 27 as the lead single to his debut album. Ready to Die was released September 13th, 1994. It reached number 13 on the Billboard 200 chart and was eventually certified platinum 4 times over. The album shifted attention back to East Coast hip-hop in a time when West Coast hip-hop dominated the US charts. It gained strong reviews and has received a ton of praise in retrospect. In addition to Juicy, the record produced 2 hit singles. The platinum-selling Big Papa, which reached number 1 on the US rap chart, and One More Chance, which sold 1.1 million copies in 1995. Biggie's lyrical themes included mafia-style tales, his drug-dealing past, materialistic bragging, humor, and romance. In the book How to Rap, rapper Gorilla Black described how he was able to both glorify the upper echelon and make you feel his struggle. He mixed autobiographical details about crime and violence with emotional honesty. Biggie once wrote that Ready to Die was a big pie with each slice indicating a different point in his life involving bitches and friends from beginning to end. The album's final track, Suicidal Thoughts, comes off like a cry for help. P. Diddy once said, "In street life, you're not allowed to show if you care about something. You've got to keep that straight face. The flip side of that is this album. He's giving up all of his vulnerability." He had this way of painting a picture with his words and made you feel like you were actually there. A skill that he demonstrated on the track, I Got a Story to Tell, where he created a story as a rap in the first half of the song, and then in the second half, it was a retelling of the same story as a conversation with his friends. The most significant date in Biggie's roller coaster year was probably November 30th, 1994. This was the day that Tupac was shot 5 times during a robbery at a recording studio in New York. He survived, but he believed that Biggie and his label had orchestrated the attack because they happened to be at the same recording studio at the same time. And it didn't help that the B-side to Biggie's single Big Papa, released just a little more than 2 months after the incident, featured a song titled Who Shot Ya? In 2012, a man would actually claim that he was the one that attacked Tupac that night, and that the robbery was orchestrated by entertainment industry executive. In July of 1995, he appeared on the cover of The Source magazine with the caption, "The King of New York Takes Over." This is a reference to his alias Frank White, based on a character from the 1990 film King of New York. It also features the Twin Towers on it, and it just gives really, just spooky vibes. It's just weird vibes. Also, if you add that to the fact that he has a lyric in the song Juicy, "Time to get paid, blow up like the World Trade," I'm sure there's some crazy conspiracy theories about how Biggie predicted 9/11. At the Source Awards in 1995, he was named Best New Artist, Lyricist of the Year, Live Performer of the Year, and Debut Album of the Year. In March, 2 fans approached Biggie right after watching a performance of his wife, Faith Evans. Words were exchanged, and then he was arrested after chasing their car with a baseball bat. He would be sentenced to 100 hours of community service, which, considering that just a few years later he would be killed by someone approaching him unexpectedly, I feel like he's kind of valid in a little apprehension when it comes to people approaching him disrespectfully. A few days later, on March 29th, he would attend the Soul Train Awards, where him and Tupac would come face to face for the first time since Tupac was shot. Essentially, all that happened was that both of the groups of people just yelled at each other a bit. Later, some of the people in the groups would recall that it was just one of those moments of being young and dumb, just wrapped up in the drama of the moment. June 4th, Tupac releases Hit 'Em Up as the B-side to How You Want It. This track is a response to the song Who Shot Ya, and it features disses aimed at Biggie, Puff, the Bad Boy team, as well as Mobb Deep. On the track, he claimed to have slept with Faith Evans, and that Biggie had copied his style and image. June 25th, Jay-Z drops his debut, Reasonable Doubt, which features a notable appearance from Biggie on Brooklyn's Finest. Big would refer to his beef with Tupac in the line, "If Faye had twins, she'd have 2 Pacs. Get it? 2 Pacs." This song would result in Jay-Z being dragged into the beef. A few short weeks later, on September 7th of 1996, after attending a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, Tupac and Suge Knight leave the venue in a BMW to go to a club. While stopped at a red light, a white Cadillac pulls up and a gunman shoots into the BMW, hitting Tupac 4 times and ending his life. Biggie's co-manager said that he was in the studio recording the track Nasty Boy on the night that Tupac was shot. Faith Evans remembers him calling her that night, and she said that he was crying from shock. She said, "I think it's fair to say that he was probably afraid, given everything that was going on at the time and all the hype that was being put on their so-called beef, that he really didn't have in his heart against anyone." Shortly after Tupac's death, he would meet with Snoop Dogg, who said that he declared that he never hated Tupac. 2 days after Tupac's death, Biggie and Lil Cease were arrested in Brooklyn for smoking marijuana in public and had their car repossessed. The next day, the dealership chose a rental for them despite Lil Cease's objections. The vehicle had brake problems, but Biggie dismissed them. The car would end up colliding with a rail in New Jersey, shattering Big's leg. He spent months in the hospital following this accident. He was temporarily confined to a wheelchair, had to use a cane, and go to physical therapy. At this time in Compton, a bloody war had broken out between the North and South sides. Over the next few days, police counted 12 shooting incidents and 3 fatalities. Paranoia gripped the neighborhood, and there were rumors that the Bloods were offering $10,000 for every Southside Crip killed. It was at this time that he spoke of a desire to focus on his peace of mind and his family and friends. On August 29th, Faith Evans would give birth to his son, Christopher Wallace Jr., and the following month, Junior Mafia member Lil' Kim released her debut album, Hardcore, under Biggie's direction while the two of them were having an affair. In February of 1997, Big would travel to California to promote his album and to record the music video for the song Hypnotize. The rest of that month is just a lot of chaos in his personal life. Like, he had a lot going on. And so because of that, he decided not to attend the Anti-Violence Hip Hop Summit, and people were really critical of that. Before we get into the last part of the video, we're going to take a moment and hear a little bit about the sponsor of today's video, Big Fig. Hello everybody. So the sponsor of today's video is a company called Big Fig. I am truly obsessed with them. They're a mattress company that makes mattresses specifically for plus size people, which is really important for like 1,000 different reasons. When it comes to mattresses, plus size people are often an afterthought. So that's where Big Fig comes in. They're a mattress company that makes mattresses specifically with plus size people in mind. I've had mine for, I guess, over a year now, and I literally have gotten the best sleep of my entire life. I've got a discount code. I will put it in the description. Big Fig is great for people who have big families or big pets, or people who just want a lot of extra support and the safety of knowing that their mattress is going to last. With a weight limit of 1,100 pounds, they're really comfortable and they have a lifetime warranty. And after going through mattress after mattress for years, I truly wish that I would have found Big Fig years ago. They're a company that I truly believe in and a product that I love and use every single day of my life. I'll put my discount code in the description box, so if you're interested in a new mattress and you're a plus size person, I highly recommend checking them out. And we're back. On March 6th of 1997, photographer Baron Claiborne would have a quick photo shoot with Biggie in New York before heading back to LA. He would end up capturing one of the most iconic images in hip-hop history. When Biggie showed up, he was open to ideas for the photo shoot and was really down for whatever. And that was great news because Claiborne had been working on a commission for the cover of Rap Pages magazine, and he had his idea ready to go. He was inspired by the symbolic imagery and oral traditions of the Southern American and African ancestry. He wanted to portray Biggie as a king, the king of New York. Instead of capturing the Coogi down to the socks Biggie, Claiborne decided to immortalize him with a tilted crown casually placed on his head. He would leave this photo shoot and get straight on a plane for LA. On March 7th, he attended the Soul Train Awards and presented the award for Best R&B Soul Female to Toni Braxton and was booed on stage. With the loss of Tupac being so fresh and the rumors of his involvement, people were not exactly happy to see him at the time. The next day on March 8th, Big attends an after party hosted by Vibe Magazine and Quest Records at the Peterson Automotive Museum in West LA. Other guests included Faith Evans, Aliyah, Sean Combs, Chris Tucker, the Wayans Brothers, Genuine, Missy Elliott, DJ Quick, Ed Lover, and members of the Bloods and Crips. There was this one story I heard while researching where Faith Evans talks about how at that point she hadn't really talked to Biggie in a long time. They were both at that party and he sent one of his friends over to say hello to her, and she sent the same message back. When she heard that there was a shooting, she said that she immediately knew and she rushed to the hospital before even finding out who had actually been shot. Shortly after midnight, as they were leaving the party, a black Chevy Impala pulls up beside them and a gunman fires into the car, hitting Biggie 4 times. And although he was rushed to the hospital, sadly he would pass away from his injuries. On March 18th, Biggie's memorial service was held at the Frank E. Campbell Funeral Chapel in Manhattan among 350 guests, which included Lil' Kim, Mary J. Blige, Queen Latifah, Run DMC, Busta Rhymes, Foxy Brown, and other high-profile artists. His mom talked about how she didn't really know how well loved he was until his funeral. She was shocked by how many people were there to celebrate. And that's the thing, is that hundreds of people showed up to show their love for Biggie. And they weren't crying and sad, they were celebrating because someone from their neighborhood made it. There are theories about his death, but I don't feel like it's my place to speculate, so I'm not going to. All you need to know is that it was never solved, either because the police were involved in it or because they just didn't feel like solving it. At the end of the day, they didn't feel like they had incentive to find the answer, and so the answer was never found. On March 25th, 16 days after he passed away, Bad Boy released the very creepily titled album Life After Death. It had collaborations with artists like Puff Daddy, Jay-Z, 112, Lil' Kim, Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, Mace, Too Short, Angela Winbush, DMC of Run DMC, The Lox, and Puff Daddy. The last album is a sequel to his first album, picking up where the last song, Suicidal Thoughts, ends. It would be nominated for 3 Grammy Awards: Best Rap Album, Best Solo Rap Performance, and Best Performance by a Duo or Group. The album was certified diamond in the year 2000 after selling more than 10 million copies. And of those 10 million, almost 700,000 were in the very first week. It's been credited as being one of the highest selling rap albums of all time. It also made the largest jump to number 1 in Billboard 200 chart history, jumping from number 176 to number 1 in just a week. It also spent 4 weeks at number 1 on the top R&B and hip hop chart. Sampled endlessly since its release, Life After Death remains one of the most successful and influential hip hop albums of all time. Biggie would be named Artist of the Year and Hypnotized the Single of the Year by Spin Magazine in 1997. In 1998, it would go on to receive tons of awards, including Grammys, Soul Train Awards, VMAs. I was gonna try to list them all, but it just kept going and going. Honestly, this video would be like 10 minutes longer if I were to list them all. Just know that there's a lot. In the years since his passing, his mother Valletta has been an active participant in keeping his legacy alive. He often appears at events celebrating his life and has even written her own memoir in 2005. When it comes to his style, one of the most iconic pieces in Biggie's fashion legacy is the Coogee sweater. Coogee is an Australian knitwear brand, which was usually only seen in places like country clubs. But Biggie opened up the brand to a whole new market. Making them staple pieces in his wardrobe demonstrated his power. I can take something so goofy like a soft granny sweater and make it street fashion and look good while doing it. Biggie also reinvented the turtleneck. Whether it was worn with a Bape camo or double-breasted overcoat, not only was Big versatile, but he was introducing luxury into the hip-hop scene. Big's affinity for luxury brands, and in particular Versace, was clear. He was rarely seen without his trademark Medusa shades from Versace. Also, he would frequently have luxury brands tailor shirts specifically for him, which at that time in the hip-hop scene, that was unheard of. In the final era, Big's style took a little bit of a change, with him often choosing the mafia boss style look, pairing three-piece suits with a fedora and a gold cane. Biggie was seen as larger than life in many ways, and he was very loved by people from his neighborhood and fans. A local resident even petitioned to have Fulton Street renamed after Biggie, but it never went through because one of the committee members voiced concerns not only over his criminal past, but specifically because of his size, which I think is really stupid, and that's all that it is. But whatever, maybe it'll happen one day. If this was your first time hearing his story, I'm so thankful to be able to share it with you. Let me know in the comments what's your favorite of his songs. There's a lot of them to choose from, so you know, but let me know which ones are your favorite. And let me know if there's anybody you guys want to see me talk about, or if there's someone that you think is interesting. Feel free to leave a comment or message me on Instagram or TikTok. And I just want to say again, as always, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. So truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I look forward to bringing more stories like these to you in the future. I am still working on figuring out the right posting schedule, so feel free to hit the little notification bell to get notified when I upload. And if you like hearing stories like these and want to subscribe, feel free to do that too. And again, a special shout out to Big Fig. I love them so much and I appreciate them for sponsoring this video. So until next time, bye! Before he had a chance to put anything out at Big Boy, no. Okay. I just recorded the entire video and I hate it. I hate it. I should have looked at it before I got to the very end. I had glasses on and you can see the reflection of everything, so I'm literally gonna redo this entire video. Alright y'all, let's go. This one's gonna go better. Hey, he would leave this photo shoot and get straight on a plane going back to Cali. Oh my god, that's so cringy. I think that's really embarrassing and I think I'm gonna just say that in real words.